This is attorney Andy Marcantel and attorney Rachel Moss from the Attorneys for Freedom Law Firm, coming to you from Dallas, Texas. We are at the NRA convention. We're having a great time, and we have another great guest for you guys in our studio here on the conference room floor. We got Wes Virdell, who is from the Gun Owners of America group, and he's going to tell you all about that organization, what he's up to in there. Wes, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
So why don't we just start out with an introduction of yourself to our listeners?
Yeah, I'm the Texas State Director for Gun Owners of America. I've been an activist since 2011 for gun rights here in Texas, and then ran for office, won my race recently. The guy who was the leader of the Ken Paxton impeachment, ran against him, took him out, and now I'm the Republican nominee for House District 53 here in Texas.
Congratulations, man.
Thanks a lot.
When did you win that?
So March 5th was that one. We still have a general in November 5th, and then we'll get sworn in January. Yep.
That's awesome. What inspired you to get into activism, running, everything like that?
Yeah, so looking at Texas, this is back around 2011. I'd gotten out of the Air Force in 2008, and I was looking at our gun laws and realized that we didn't have open carry. Basically wasn't allowed. The only time you could open carry in Texas was if you were traveling from your house to the gun range and back. That's pretty much it. And so anyways, I started researching it, looking into the penal code. I became very well versed in the penal code on our gun rights in Texas, and started going to the Capitol in 2011, testifying for constitutional carry and against several gun bills. And 2015, not because of me, but because a lot of activists showed up. A lot of our legislators, which I'll soon be one, but a lot of our legislators all the time campaign about how pro-Second Amendment they are. And then when you put a bill in front of them that says, I want you to support this bill.
They don't walk the walk.
No, and they get cold feet. They don't want to support it. They will sometimes work behind the scenes against you to kill that bill.
Really?
And we've had that happen several times. And then it was because we had activists showing up to the Capitol, putting pressure on those legislators, that they finally in 2015 got that passed. And it has to go through the House, the Senate, and be signed by the governor. And so we managed to get that accomplished. Then then everybody got really hungry for constitutional carry, so that became our big push. GOA had asked me a few years after 2015 to come on as a volunteer for them as their Hill Country coordinator. And so I started going to the Capitol anyways. So then I got to travel around the state, talking to different groups, saying, hey, we need you. Our basic job with GOA is, one is we sue the government often and well, and then two is we try to recruit as many activists as we can to come to the Capitol. If any other people from any other states are listening, that's how you change how your government's operating, is activism. You have to show up. The government's controlled by those who show up. And so if you sit at home and complain and don't show up, then it's kind of your fault that nothing changed. So
well put, man. So call to action here, guys. You can't just sit idly. If you want things to change, don't just sit around and complain about it. You got to get involved.
Yep.
So what is the GOA all about? Tell us about the organization.
Yep, we were founded in 1976. A California state senator named H.L. Richardson started Gun Owners of California. And that grew into, he was actually an exec for, I think he was an exec for NRA back then, left with to do the GOC, which transformed into GOA. And so we have directors all over the country. There's a few state directors, and then we have regional directors that look over several states for like the western area and those kind of areas. My job is just, I travel a lot. I drive about 1,000 miles a week right now, and I just try to go to every group I can across the state of Texas, which is pretty big. It takes about 16 hours to get all
big
the way
state.
across. Yeah, and we just ask everybody we can, please come to the Capitol, sign up for our emails, join GOA, and so this is how we stay in contact with our members, saying, here's the bills coming up. One thing that I'm really proud that we don't do is we don't bug people for money all the time. Like, we don't make this like we need the funding. We're a member funded organization to do what we do, but we try our best not to be one of those groups that just bombard you. We don't send you cheap Chinese hats or bags or whatever it is, and but the money, and a lot of times, like when we're at shows like this, talking to people that want to be members, they say, what do I get if I join GOA? And what they get is not a bunch of cheap junk or anything like that. They get us showing up to the Capitol, recruiting other activists to come to the Capitol. So I would really say, like, our biggest thing is
that should be the only selling point you need, right?
Yeah,
Like you get you get activism.
Yeah, we don't waste your money. We do really well with the budget we have, and we're very efficient on it. Most of us work from home, and so we don't have big fancy buildings or anything to look pretty in or anything like that. But,
yeah. What are you guys trying to accomplish right now? Any big projects in the works?
Yeah, so I just got to May 1st. I got to do a press conference with Ken Paxton here in Frisco area, which is near here. And so we did a press conference with Chris Kobach from Kansas. He's the Attorney General over there. that was the day we filed our lawsuit against the ATF for their universal registration, we'll call it, where they're making everybody go through an FFL dealer to sell a firearm. And so we filed that one May 1st, and on the same day, we had our suppressor freedom bill being heard in the Fifth Circuit in Louisiana. So we've got a lot of good lawsuits out there. I think we have another one going right now, which is Joe Biden and John Cornyn together. We'll call them co-conspirators on the Bipartisan Community Safer Act. They got that passed. It has wreaked havoc across the country and in our state. My kid is 19, went to go buy a shotgun the other day, and he now has to wait at least 10 to 20 days for that to come through. So imagine you're a 19-year-old female in college. Somebody is threatening your life. You want to go buy a firearm to defend yourself. And now you take in also the concept of the universal registration that they're trying to do right now. You take that into concept. Now that 19-year-old female could be waiting 10, 20 days for a firearm to protect herself from an imminent threat. So
just hurdle after hurdle that the government
and these laws could cost lives.
Yeah, Biden has weaponized the ATF. I mean, the ATF's unconstitutional to begin with. What is that? NFA Act of 1934 is unconstitutional, but we have to deal with it right now, and so we just continue to sue the government every time they violate our rights. And luckily, the courts have been ruling in our favor a lot over the last couple of years. So
I've noticed that ATF has started to try to take the place of the legislature sometimes.
Yeah.
We saw this in a huge way with the forced reset triggers a couple years ago, where ATF decided, they came out and said these are machine guns. And I think any regular gun owner would not agree with ATF on that decision. So is part of GOA's interest keeping an eye on ATF as they dip their toes into these areas?
We watch them often. They try to legislate without any congressional oversight on it, which is wrong. But at the same time, so here's an example. Where they're trying to require all of us to basically now go through an FFL to private sell a firearm or anything like that. We watch them on that. I got to jump over to the FRT thing real quick. So the forced reset trigger, we had a sheriff's department in Gillespie County, which is Fredericksburg, Texas. A lot of people know where Fredericksburg is. And basically a guy who used to work for the sheriff's department gets a phone call from his buddy who's still an investigator at the sheriff's department there in Fredericksburg, and says, hey, do you still have any of those forced reset triggers? And he's like, yeah, I got 2 or 3 of them or something like that. And I've talked to the guy. We've done a radio interview before. Well, anyways, the investigator for that sheriff's department then tells them, hey, I've got you on speakerphone with the ATF. They want to know where to meet you at to pick these up. So, I mean, his own friend slash sheriff's deputy investigator betrayed him on that. And now the sheriff is in a runoff because of what happened there. I mean, you don't let the ATF come into your district. If you're a sheriff, that's something we really harp on too, is just being a good constitutional sheriff. And so we watch the ATF heavily, and unfortunately there are agencies that are working with the ATF. We had a bill in 2021 that was supposed to work like a Second Amendment sanctuary, to where if you're in Texas, you cannot help the ATF or federal organizations to pursue unconstitutional acts. And unfortunately, that bill was weakened by a legislator, and so we're running against that guy. We're helping the candidate that's running against that guy right now to take that person out. But that bill could have been much stronger, and unfortunately, a legislator who campaigns himself as a pro-2A guy weakened that bill too.
Tell us a little bit more about that bill, because you're saying it was trying to make it so that local law enforcement weren't allowed to work
to
with?
Assist, to assist federal governments for what we deem as unconstitutional acts. So now that's probably vague, and I'd have to go back and look through the language. Remember, it's been 3 years now since that bill passed, but that one, and then the suppressor freedom bill, which is a really big, everybody constantly asks me, hey, can we build suppressors in Texas now, or can we have them without a tax stamp? And the way the bill was written, so originally in Kansas, bill was passed, basically says, hey, this is intrastate, not interstate, so therefore interstate commerce clause does not apply to this. And so, but 2 guys in Kansas one built the suppressor, one bought the suppressor. Now they both have felonies. And so then we wrote the bill, and I say we have really great lawyers that write bills for us, and Rachel Malone was the state director for us back then, and so she did a great job on this. This bill got passed, signed by the governor, but it requires the Attorney General, who's Ken Paxton, to challenge the federal government on the issue of the interstate versus interstate. And so that is currently being heard right now. So right now you cannot manufacture suppressor in Texas and keep it in Texas without a tax stamp. You still have to go through the ATF requirements or NFA requirements. But if we end up getting the ruling in our favor, then it says, hey, you have no longer have federal jurisdiction over this in Texas. So
what's the timeline on these types of legal battles for you guys?
Yeah, so this bill, which is interesting about it, so Ken Paxton had brought the challenge to the North Texas District, and the judge had ruled it didn't have standing, and I'm not sure, I'm not a lawyer, so but somehow it managed to get past that into the Fifth Circuit, and so we think that we'll probably have a ruling somewhat fast on that, but normally, like when people ask me, how long is this going to take? I just say, just expect 2 to 3 years for this process. So.
Yeah. Have you seen anything in the wake of the Bruen decision from the United States Supreme Court? How has Texas responded to that? I know that a lot of jurisdictions, we're a nationwide law firm, so we have the benefit of kind of the 30,000-foot view of all the different types of jurisdictions.
Yeah, in Texas, I think Texas is mostly doing everything right already, so it didn't affect us at all. There's not anything that they had to address on it. Back to the Bipartisan Community Safer Act one, there was a bill that I fought against this session. We had 8,500 people send emails to our legislators saying don't support this bill, and unfortunately in the Senate, which has 31 members in it, it passed 31-0, and what it was to expand the NICS system, the federal background checks, and anyways, it expands it to 16, 17-year-olds also into it, and unfortunately, it puts people in a prohibited position. So I testified against that bill. The House member that carried the House side of the bill, he said I was wrong. I said, once you get put on the prohibited list, it's almost impossible to get off without a really good lawyer. We should be fighting against unconstitutional federal mandates. And I can't remember what else I said in that statement, but then that guy, who I believe is a lawyer, gets up and says I'm wrong about everything I just said in his closing statements. And we almost had it killed this session. It passed this session. Unfortunately, that's one bill that got through that I'm not happy about. So,
well, hearing you talk about it, I think from experience, I can say you're right. We work on NICS cases all the time where we help people clear up their records, and you're right, it's a difficult process.
Yeah.
And
there's a guy named Isaac Ritchie I need to get you in touch with, but he's in New York, or not? He's in Texas now. He was living in New York, stationed there. He went and sought some just mental health counseling, I guess you would say, voluntarily. Finished his time. He did that about 2 years into his Army career. Did his 4 years, honorable discharge, gets out, comes to Texas, goes to buy a gun, and he gets rejected. Said, nope, you're a prohibited person.
Because of that mental health.
And he had to do a bunch of research to find out, and they had put him as a permanently prohibited person through the SAFE Act, I guess is what New York has over there. And so he's been fighting with New York, and hopefully that's going in his favor. I know he's got a lawyer out of New York, I believe, that's helping him on that. So
yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. Does GOA take an official stance on red flag laws?
Yeah, we're 100% against red flag laws, and we try to provide anytime other states where there's issues. Our lawyers will write amicus briefs or amicus briefs, however you say it. I get stuff wrong all the time. Yeah, but
lawyers don't even know how to pronounce it.
No, and so, anyways, we try to help. Even if it's another organization that's filing a lawsuit, we'll also still provide an amicus brief in it to help with that. So yeah, we had one that wasn't our bill, but it was. So our constitutional carry bill in 21 got weakened. It was supposed to be 18 and up. Some legislators voted for an amendment that made it 21 and up only. And then in the North Texas, a gun rights organization filed a lawsuit against that. And then our amicus brief has got what? See, I'm saying it both ways without even knowing it. But our amicus brief was used as what the judge referenced when he was given his ruling, and he ruled that 18, 19, and 20-year-olds deserve the same constitutional rights as 21 and up. So it's really good.
Shows how much that makes a difference to these kind of things.
We were going to file a bill last session to bring it up because that ruling hadn't been made yet. So we had two bills written, one for license to carry 18 and up and one for constitutional carry 18 and up. And then the ruling came out, and our lawyer said, hey, don't tell the legislators don't file these bills. The court has given us what we wanted. We don't want to present that bill and then have them give them a chance to amend it into something worse. And so we didn't. So now 18, 19, 20-year-olds can carry in Texas with or without a license to carry. So.
Excellent. That's awesome that you guys help other groups and you guys work together. We're all working at a common goal here.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. We shouldn't see each other as our enemies or challengers or anything like that. The goal is if everybody's pushing forward in the same direction, as long as unless a gun group's working against us, then we're definitely going to call that out.
This seems like a good opportunity for me to try to stir the pot a little bit. Any thoughts on the recent issues with the NRA? Even coming here, just like sharing it with you, even coming here, some of our followers, subscribers, clients, things like that are like, why are you guys associating with the NRA? There's lots of problems with them. Any thoughts on what's been going on with the NRA?
So for me, I look at leadership. When I was a young airman in the Air Force, like I didn't understand like good and bad leadership, you know, and once you realize, and through experience, once you realize when you have really good leadership, it always filters down and your unit's better, your squadron's better, everything else. And so I think I know that they're voting right now for some of the executive board member voting's going on or something like that. I hope that they I wish they could dig up Charlton Heston. That would be great. Put him back up there.
That's awesome.
Hopefully they end up with a board that is willing to fight and will show up in full force and be right there with us, shoulder to shoulder, fighting for us. Because our end goal is to abolish the ATF, to restore. When we look at the Second Amendment, there's people have arguments on this, but to me it's a restriction against all government, federal and state government. There are some people that think, it only applies to the federal side of it, but I 100% believe, and you could tie the 14th Amendment in there if you want to argue this, but I believe that the federal government is fully restricted, or not just federal, all of the governments underneath the federal government, states governments, local governments are bound by that Second Amendment, saying that they don't have the right to infringe on.
Yeah, that's the point of the 14th Amendment, very arguably, right?
Yeah, those Bill of Rights are restrictions on the government, not a restriction on us. So the ultimate goal is to fully get government in line with the Bill of Rights.
Fantastic.
Did you know we almost didn't have a Bill of Rights?
No, do tell.
Okay, so we had at the Philadelphia Convention, when they were signing the Constitution, there were 3 guys that refused to sign that bill, or that Constitution, and they said, we're not going to do it without a Bill of Rights.
That's right. I do remember this.
Yeah, James Madison was against the Bill of Rights, and then he ended up over the next couple of years when they had their debates, he ended up writing 12 amendments and ended up being 10 that made it in there. So
yeah, I do remember this, and it was a steadfast, this is a condition. If you want us on board, we want this clearly enshrined.
Yep. George Washington was president for 2 years before we had the Bill of Rights actually ratified into it, and the states had agreed to it. So
what a lot of people don't understand, and we try to educate people on, is the fact that the Bill of Rights isn't creating anything new. It's not the government bestowing you these, here's some privileges.
Just recognition of rights you already have. So
that's absolutely right. Yeah, we try to remind people of that.
Yeah.
I want to switch topics from guns a little bit,
right.
Just to ask you kind of, since we're talking about state versus federal power and keeping an eye on that whole situation. As a Texan, how do you feel like what's going on at the border right now in your state?
It's disappointing. I know several retired Border Patrol officers and their Border Patrol agents. They're really upset with the way it's been handled right now, and I get mixed reviews. I have friends that are with the Texas National Guard working on the border, and some of them say, yep, Border Patrol's working with us, and then some of them say, no, some of these guys are actually working against us. And one of my friends had said that they were out there and they took pictures of a Border Patrol agent cutting the wire.
Cutting the wires,
and that was a friend of mine. So pretty wild, but anyways, it's disappointing. We're supposed to have a strong border. There's some folks that call me shoot 'em up Virdell, and when I was running for office, I had made a statement that I guarantee if you shoot a few trespassers, they'll get the message real quick. And what I mean by that is aggressive trespassers, right? I'm not talking about women and children, but they turned that into, my opponent started calling everybody and saying, hey, Wes said we should shoot women and children. It's like, no, that's not what I said. But you have sex traffickers, drug traffickers, murderers, terrorist members, all coming across the border, and there's no consequence for them right now. So if you go to, remember Frederick Bastiat wrote The Law, great book, in that he talks about labor is pain, and there are those who will continue to plunder until the consequences of plunder is worse than the pain of labor. And the same thing applies here. There are people who will continue to come across until the consequences of coming across are high enough to prevent them from doing it. So right now they don't have any fear of coming across. I'm not saying we should shoot them. I'm saying that there should be consequences for it, and they should, every time that they get caught coming across, fingerprint them, DNA test them, and then deny them the right to ever come back into this country through legal means.
Yeah, we're from a border state too. We're based out of Arizona.
Yeah,
and the situation down there is crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people are concerned not only that people are coming in from South America, but at this point, people from all over the world.
Oh yeah.
There's lots of reports of a lot of Chinese immigrants right now, military-age male Chinese immigrants.
I think they're all coming into Ecuador or something like that, and then working their way all the way up. So Trump's border wall. And I think it was May or June of 2020, went down. So my background is not in legal. My background is in heavy truck repair. Had a trucking company for several years. And then I also worked on ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles, in the Air Force before I went back to our family business. But 2020, I went and picked up part of the border wall, 9 pieces of it, or 8 pieces of it, from Ingleside, which is near Corpus Christi, if I remember right, here in Texas. And then took that all the way over to Lukeville, Arizona, if I remember right, was the port down there, and dropped that off at the wall. So, I got to haul part of the border wall all the way over there.
That's kind of cool, yeah.
Oh, did we talk about you taking office yet?
No, yeah.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about what you plan to accomplish in your first term?
Yeah, I have about 10 2A bills that we plan on filing. Some of those are making the threshold for, if you claim self-defense, that the burden of proof from the prosecution must be higher, those kind of things. Another one is going to be, right now you can be civilly sued and go through criminal court at the same time, and we want to put it in there where there's a stay on civil suits until after your criminal challenge is through, if you're accused of murder or whatever they want to throw on you. But anyway, so that's one of them. There's some that I want to go after. Game wardens right now in Texas can come onto your property without permission, and so I want to pass a bill that I've got working on language right now that will require that they either have landowner permission or probable cause before they're able to come on. Because right now, Texas Parks and Wildlife claims that they own the deer, which they claim the state owns the deer, therefore they have the right to come on your property without consent to check on those deer.
That's wild.
And what they're really doing is they're often. I know a guy that Texas Parks and Wildlife. He flies over and marks deer camps, and then he'll go visit those deer camps without permission and wait to catch guys.
Do they have to see a deer on your property first, or can they just,
if
they think there could be a deer?
That's a good.
There might be a deer.
Wow.
We're entering. Wow.
Yeah, and then the high fence stuff. So right now, Texas Parks and Wildlife, Ted Nugent's been talking about this lately. Senator Bob Hall, and then I plan on being part of this team. And Ted Nugent will be going. Texas Parks and Wildlife right now has killed, I think it's 400,000 white-tailed deer with only 600 positive IDs for CWD, chronic wasting disease. And so they're killing, 500,000 deer right now so far, looking for something that they haven't verified is actually going to kill a herd out or anything like that. And so landowners that do high fence breeding, Texas Parks and Wildlife is coming in and will kill 500, 600 deer at a time without justification. They just killed, there was a research center that I think had been in Kerrville for like 30 years. They went in and killed all the deer because of one positive, and then it turned out that was a false positive.
So just horrendous inefficiency in how they're going about looking for
government abuse, and they use that as leverage over all the landowners to control them. So, and then also protecting exotic breeders. So we have animals here in Texas that are extinct in the rest of the world.
Like what?
Is it David Perry deer? Perry David deer? I think I'm saying that right. They always get it messed up. But anyway, so that's a deer that is from another country that it's exotic in its native land, but
died out in its native country. Wow.
And it's still alive here. So a lot of the exotics, like you heard the Joe Rogan joke talking about there's more tigers in Texas than the rest of the world. Like true story. And anyways, there's a lot of breeders here that are keeping these animals alive where they might be extinct in the part of the rest of the world if that wasn't happening. So we want to help those guys out. And then basically, I'm a Ron Paul guy, Milton Friedman kind of guy, so I want to find anywhere I can to restore personal liberty that's been taken away. When I have a list and I'm just keeping notes of every time I see it, like, government shouldn't be doing that, and so I'll write it down, and and then that'll go to what we call Ledge Council, and then they'll draft the bill for us, and then we'll file it, and then hopefully get it through. So, and we've got a great group of guys right now. We took out 9 incumbents so far during this election, 98% re-election rate for incumbents, and we've taken out 9 so far in Texas. We have 5 or 6 more that we're helping out right now that we should be taking out. And so we'll be going in with a total of 25 new freshmen this year. Most of us are all ready to fix that. I don't know if you looked into the Texas House, but it's very broken right now. It's mostly controlled by Democrats, even though we're a majority Republic. And because the Democrats can all vote for a Speaker of the House, and then you just got to get 10 Republicans willing to, kind of like what John Cornyn did with the bipartisan bill, and then you have a Speaker of the House who caters to the Democrats instead of to Republicans. And so we're working pretty strongly on that right now.
It sounds like you're ready to dive in and get a lot done, though.
Yeah, we're very aggressive right now.
I was just going to say, I wish more of our representatives would take that type of attitude towards What needs to be done? Oh, the government doesn't need to be involved in that. Why the hell is the government doing this?
Yeah, something as simple as why do we have two license plates on our vehicle right now? Like,
this is what the founders were thinking.
Yeah,
we need to get the government out of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah,
so I appreciate that philosophy.
We're in a good spot. I grew up listening to my dad complain about government, and here I am. So
I guess I have one more question specifically about that bill you were talking about involving the burden of proof for self-defense cases.
Yeah.
So what is that? It's right now it's an affirmative defense in Texas, or is it this bill trying to make it so it's beyond a reasonable doubt? The state has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt.
That's a great question for our lawyers. I don't have.
I can't wait to look into that. Yeah, that's interesting. Hopefully, what they're trying to do is put the burden of proof on the state to say we have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, essentially as an element of the crime, that they didn't act in self-defense if they claim it.
Yeah,
that would
just like y'all saw Daniel Perry got. So Daniel Perry was the guy that was on Congress Avenue in Austin, and BLM riders were around him, and a guy with an AK pointed it at him, and he shot the guy with a pistol from his car, and then he got convicted of murder and put in jail, and then he just got pardoned 2 days ago, I believe it was. And anyways, that would be an example of where they need to hire a burden of proof before. Yeah, so.
I like it. Wes, we want to give you a chance to plug whatever you want to plug. If you got a website, if you got something you'd like people to visit, feel free.
Yeah, if y'all go to gunowners.org, sign up there. Even if you don't want to be a member, sign up for email so you can keep track of what we're doing at GOA. And then also you can go to virdellfortexas.com. I hate to be a politician here, but donating helps me a lot. It helps pay for the fight, and it helps recruit great people, because we can hire staff off of that money to help us be more organized and fight for legislation that we care about and help kill. We killed 152 gun bills this session.
Fantastic.
Last session. So,
congratulations.
After Uvalde happened, we had 152 anti-gun bills show up.
So what do you get when you sign up for GOA? You get Wes. You get people who are actually fighting for you and trying to do the right thing in the world, right? Man, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for
You're
having
a class
me.
act. We wish you the best of luck, and change the world for the better, man.
Will do. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. This has been Attorney Andy Marcantel and Attorney Rachel Moss. Everybody can go and check out attorneysonretainer.us to learn all about our self-defense program and what it can do for you. Check out attorneysforfreedom.com to learn about the philosophy of our law firm and how we defend our clients. If you like the video, make sure to like it, leave us a comment down below, subscribe to the channel. Until next time, Attorney Andy Marcantel, Attorney Rachel Moss, and our good friend Wes signing out. Peace.